Hi everyone, my name's Hugh. As Greg said, I'm a local artist. I'm actually an illustrator. And about 2 years ago, I co-founded Arts for Impact with a kind of a vague idea, which was that we saw lots of creative people, artistic people, doing work in the community that seemed to be having all sorts of interesting benefits for people. One of which I'm going to talk about today, which is that involving yourself in artistic production and creative activity seems to have positive health benefits that you can actually measure. One of my favourite statistics about this, although there are loads, if you do a Google search you'll find lots of stuff. One of my favourite ones is that engaging in artistic activity for just 45 minutes will measurably reduce the amount of cortisol in your bloodstream regardless of your level of ability, which is really quite amazing. So, like I said, we started out with a bit of a vague idea. This is going to be a bit of a theme in my talk, vagueness to not vagueness. So our vague idea was to look at what creative people were doing in the community and investigate what the potential of that was. And now, 2 years later, we have this snappy sentence here to describe what we do. Arts for Impact delivers social outcomes by applying creative skills in our community. Simple as that. So today I'm going to talk about Art on Prescription, which is an initiative funded by the John Rampling Charitable Trust that we've been running for almost a year at Stick Centre. And I'm just going to talk you through this, the first project which I ran. We've had a few different artists to do these since. So the first one was a bit of an experiment. I had to kind of work out what I was doing as I went along a little bit. And yeah, I think I'll just give a commentary on what you can see and hopefully some ideas as to why involving yourself in creative activities has such an effect on your health. So the first activity I got everyone to do, this was a group of about 10 people, most of whom had never really done any art before. And our evidence base suggested that this kind of activity could be beneficial for people suffering from mild to moderate depression and anxiety, pain management issues, chronic pain, and addiction issues as well. In the first session we made these, which I really love. Basically this is made by collaging things out of old magazines, and I think I had a big stack of Next catalogues, which we had in our recycling. My wife just seems to get them every time they come out, and they build up into this huge stack. So we used those. They were really good because they had a lot of variety of colour and texture in them. And we use mirrors, kind of like a kaleidoscope, to piece them together into these repeat patterns. So this is very easy. You can immediately see the results of your ideas as you move these little pieces of coloured paper around in front of the mirrors. You get this immediate feedback, and it's always you're always producing something that's kind of unexpected. And I think this is really key to the creative process. This idea that you need to explore unexplored territory, and you need to experience the unexpected, and then kind of find your way to making that a meaningful experience. So you're probably wondering why I'm holding a wooden spoon at the moment as well. It's actually quite hard to explain creativity and how it works. The best way I have come up with to explain it is the following. So everyone knows what this is, right? Wooden spoon. Can anyone tell me something else that you could use this for that would work and is not something you would necessarily use a wooden spoon for? Yes?
You can put it over the top of a pasta and it stops the water boiling over.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of a useful thing to be able to do. But I'd say it's not, it's still in the realm of cooking. I'm looking for a really creative idea, yes? Okay. Would that work?
Yeah, I used to use one.
Excellent.
Without collecting the grass, because the grass would all jumble up, but if I put a wooden spoon in, then it didn't jumble up.
Okay, well I've never heard of someone using a wooden spoon like that, and it sounds like it worked. So, did someone else have one? Yeah.
Stirring paint.
Stirring paint. Yeah, that's still its function is to stir. So yeah, I mean it sounds like it would work. Okay, now we're cooking with gas now. Yeah. Okay, so that's a bit unusual. I mean, you could. Yeah, excellent. Okay, we're really going into unexplored territory here. So creativity is what you guys were just doing when you looked at this wooden spoon and thought, okay, we're not going to use it to cook with. We're going to think of a novel and useful function for this item. And so when you guys did that, hopefully in your mind, when you think like that, you have to kind of cast your mind out into the unknown, into unexplored territory. And that's really what creativity is all about. It's about exploring that territory and then finding a meaningful path through it. And art, which is different to creativity but involves creativity, is the process of communicating that. So communicating that journey into the unknown, that kind of creative journey that you've had. Art is a communication medium, which is one of the reasons it works so well for this kind of work. So going back to this, we came up with a novel and useful use for old Next catalogues. Here's some more. One of the reasons I really love these is because they kind of remind me of sort of textiles from maybe South American textiles or textiles from those kind of cultures, very traditional cultures. In my mind, human beings have spent billions of hours sitting down making things like this, weaving them together. There's something very sort of primal about it, which is really cool. Let's have one. Okay, so I talked about creating chaos, and this was what I came up with for our first group. So I need to explain this process a little bit. This is a process called monoprinting, and basically what you do is you take this acrylic ink. You can see someone squeezing some out there, and can you see that roller in the foreground with the red handle? You basically just squeeze the ink onto these flat surfaces and roller it out, which is kind of a pleasant activity. It's kind of tacky, and it makes a nice noise as you roller it. And really just make a mess, basically. Just cover that surface with a layer of ink. And really, I didn't put a flat surface in front of each person and say, here's your piece of work on that. Everyone was just going around the room and adding. So the key here is to, like I said, create some chaos, go into some unexplored territory. And one of the things that really stops that is the reaction that a lot of people have when you ask them to be creative, which is that they don't want to reveal anything about themselves. They feel very reticent to do it. And they feel very precious about what they're creating, like they're going to have to produce like an amazing work of art straight off the bat, which is that's an impossible demand to put on someone. So by collaborating and kind of going around the room and all sharing the same thing, you really get around that problem. You sort of do a bit and then you move on to something else. You're really just focusing on discovering rather than trying to create something specific. There's loads of really weird myths around artists and what they do and creative people. And one of them is, I could probably talk all day about all of these things, but one of them is that artists sort of sit down, sort of think of something, and then they just like vomit it out onto a canvas or a piece of paper. It just doesn't work like that at all. You learn something every time you make a work of art, which then feeds into the next one, and you'll make mistakes while you're doing it, and sometimes those mistakes will actually push it in a much better direction. And it's like I said, you have to be able to experience and take advantage of the unexpected. So that's what we did here. I think I'll explain that. Here's some more. So the next stage here is actually, if I go back one. In the foreground as well here, you can see some various objects. There's some clay sculpting tools, which are kind of like a little wire loop, and some wire wool and some string. I had all sorts of stuff. I don't think I had a wooden spoon, but we had some forks and all sorts of stuff. And the idea is to just go around and just see what these objects could do in this layer of ink, see what you could do with it, what kind of marks it would make. And that's what we've done there. And once you've done that, once we had layers of ink that everyone had gone round and sort of played around, you put a piece of paper flat onto it, roll at the back and peel it off. That's why it's called monoprinting, because it's a printing process, but you only get one print from it. There's someone peeling it off. It's also quite satisfying, that peel. It's quite good fun. And you end up with things like this. So no person in that group could ever have gone, right, I'm gonna do like a yellow and black thing with squiggles. Like no one did that. What they were producing was new. It was completely new. So what started to happen here is we created this chaos. Like really, none of this really was meant to represent anything. But as we started to take these prints, I mean, everyone started to discuss this, and they started to bring their own meaning to what was happening. So this is like the going from chaos to going towards order. It's like a transformation process that happens. So here we kind of started to look at them, and it kind of looked like drops of water falling into a pool or something like that. And everyone kind of agreed. There was kind of this shared sense of meaning and purpose kind of emerges from the chaos, if you like. This one was really cool. It kind of looks like some Arabic calligraphy, and it's got a nice sort of rusty look to it. I really like these ones on the left. That's very evocative of like German occupation bunkers to me. I really like that. Here's some of the bits of paper just as they came off. Another cool thing that would happen is that someone would pull their print off and look at it and be like, oh, you know, they'd be kind of indifferent to it, and they'd put it aside, and then someone else would wander over and go, oh, look at that, and pick it up and find some kind of value in it. So we had tons and tons and tons of these. That's another cool thing about this process, is it's very easy and quick to do. And we started to, like I said, these themes started to emerge, and we started to put this together. So you can kind of see, can you see a yellow shape towards the left of the piece? We thought that looked like a fish. And there's a little, you can't see it very well, but just above that and to the right, there's this shape. That's exactly how that print came off of the table. And if you look closely, it looks like a galleon, like an old ship, like exactly like one. It was really crazy that image kind of emerged out of out of what we did. So this theme started to develop, and it was a theme of coastal things. And lots of people had memories associated with the coast. I think one person used to dive, but they had been injured and couldn't dive anymore, and started talking really enthusiastically about diving and under the water and that kind of thing, which was really cool. So, you know, there's this narrative. As an illustrator, I'm really interested in narrative in art in particular. So I got really excited when all these stories started to emerge out of what we were doing. This was nice, kind of looks like rays of light coming down through a storm. There's the fish-like marks again. So here we're starting to collage these pieces together according to the narrative that was emerging from the work we'd done, from the raw material, if you like. I really love that. It looks like it's still quite abstract, but it looks like a beach, like with pebbles and things like that. And you can see the kind of Arabic calligraphy thing has been kind of reinterpreted again. It was very nice on its own, but it's actually been reused into this, and it works perfectly. We also collaged the patterns that I showed you earlier into the monoprinting that we'd done. Oh yeah, one really cool thing, which I think it contributes to why art helps people so much, is I think it's this transformation process. Like I said, this process of going into unexplored territory and making a journey from chaos to order, if you like. But also that it never ceases to fascinate me how you can stand in front of a room of people and give them the same materials and tell them all the same thing, but everyone will do something completely different. And that's really interesting because they're telling you something about themselves when they do that. And I think it's something that they can't tell you in any other way. Like I said, art is a communication medium. It's meant to be, it's meant to express something, and it's meant to be looked at. And I'm sure you guys can all think of something that is in your mind or in your psyche that you couldn't explain to someone just by talking to them. That it would just be impossible to do that. I mean, I definitely do. I don't know if I might be unusual in that, but yeah, when you make a creative work, a piece of art, you're telling everyone something. I find that really interesting. It's another nice one. Okay, so once we had made these smaller things, smaller images from what we'd done, started to put together a larger one. I always seem to get on the edge of photographs and get this weird head stretch, like from the lens distortion. I don't know why that keeps happening. Maybe I just have a long head. Okay, so here we are. Oh, that should be another image. There we go. So this is the whole thing. It's kind of, when you look at it from a distance, it kind of looks quite chaotic still. Although there is kind of some elements. You can see like a Martello tower, or 2 Martello towers, and that kind of thing. But hopefully, yeah. So when you zoom in, you can see that there's all these suggestions of coastal flowers and little bits of underwater scenes and little bits of weather happening as well. It's really, really cool. So moving around the piece actually helps to tell its story. There's another close-up. So I was quite happy with this. It was like an 8-week project that I did with the group. And after that project, we started working with Helen Bonner Morgan, who's another artist, another local artist. And she did a project at the Guernsey Cheshire Home, which is following a very similar sort of template. But Helen is incredible at noticing what people's individual skills and abilities are, and supporting them to produce something really unique. So she ended up producing this, which is actually on display over there, which I absolutely love. It's kind of like the project that I did, but it's far more refined. Like when you look, I know that all the people who contributed to this, and when I look at the different areas, I can kind of imagine that person, and it's an amazing collaborative effort, a really beautiful thing. There we go. Thanks very much for listening.